No,
Well,
please
I
continue.
was just going to say to you, what do you know about their involvement in the Altantuya murder? Because I know that's something that you have been involved.
Well, to speak honestly, Najib is definitely involved in the murder. You need to rationalize with these two facts. Firstly, there is no way a serving police officer would assassinate and then bomb, use a C4 dynamite and bomb a lady who's pregnant. And secondly, he scrambled when the first statutory declaration was issued and sent both his brothers and his personal lawyer in the dead of night to meet the person who had issued and signed the first SD, to reverse and revise the SD so that it doesn't show his involvement in the case. There is no reason for him to do that. If he was not involved in the murder, he didn't have to change the second SD at all.
So you were involved that night. Tell me about how that happened. Like, who called you? How did it actually happen?
Well, I was called by Datin Rosma. Like I said, I would like to elaborate on other tasks that she had put me on to do. I was basically her confidant, and there were many things that were asked by her to be done, including taking documents from government officers which were official secret, and these documents were for her to counter-check on her husband so that she knew exactly how many contracts were awarded that week. So all these documents were collected and delivered to her, and she would go through everything and then wait for him to tell her what was approved and what wasn't.
So how did you get hold of those documents, sir?
I was tasked with collecting them.
But how, I mean, if they're classified documents, top secret, how could you go into a department and just get these?
She calls the private secretary to release it to me.
Right. And it was all to do with contracts?
Yes. Her interest was all the contracts. Every single contract issued by the Malaysian government, signed by the Minister of Finance, that week she knew, and she wanted a stake of every single contract.
And what else did you do for her?
Well, I would elaborate on these matters later, but let's just stay on
the Altantuya. So that night, so what happened? I mean...
Well, she called me in the late afternoon, and she asked me whether I could locate this person. I've never met him in my life, Piai Bala. I contacted a few friends because Piai Bala was he was an ex-police officer, and there were people who knew him, and we managed to locate him. I went to see him, but he was very insistent that if he was to change anything, he wants a clarification from Najib and Rosma of the actual involvement. So I went back to their official residence in Sri Satya. It was I think somewhere between 7 or 8 p.m. and I sat down with Datuk Najib in the lounge with Datin and explained to him that this gentleman, Piai Bala, is insisting that he is speaking the truth, and that his statutory declaration, he is an ex-police officer, he would not lie in a statutory declaration. And there's only one way that he was to be convinced to change it, and that was to meet Datuk Sri and Datin Sri. At that time, he was the Deputy Prime Minister. And they are to explain to him why they were not involved. Najib said, I will send my brother. He called his brother in front of me, Datuk Johari Razak, who's a senior managing partner in one of the largest law firms in Malaysia called Shern Delmo, and told him that he is to meet this gentleman, Piai Bala. But Johari was not in town. Johari didn't arrange his key man, a senior counsel himself. He's now Tan Sri Sisal Ibrahim, to start working on a statutory declaration that would absolve Najib. He then called his brother, another brother called Datuk Nazim Raza, who's an architect, and asked Nazim to meet urgently with P.I. Bala. So I called P.I. Bala. I said, okay, Najib cannot meet you, but his brother is going to meet you. And you can you come to a particular venue, which was in Mutiara Damansara, near the IKEA, the flagship IKEA mall in Malaysia, to meet Najib's brother. So he came, we met maybe 9-10 o'clock at night. Nazim even brought his wife along. She was pregnant. But she didn't want to let him go at night and handle such a nasty task. So I left Datuk Nazim to talk to P.I. Bala. I went to the other corner because Nazim wanted to have a private discussion with him. And after the discussion, P.I. Bala said, okay, he's willing to change the testimony. And Nazim then organized for him to be sent to a hotel in KL.
So you don't know what convinced Bala to change his...
What Bala told me after that was that he was threatened by Datuk Nazim, that Datuk Nazim informed him that Datuk Nazim has arranged his personal security and some government enforcement officers outside his house, P.I. Bala's house. And his wife had called P.I. Bala to inform him that there were 2 cars with many people sitting down inside, many men sitting down outside their house at the dead of night. And he had no choice. Basically, here you have the Deputy Prime Minister. He was against the greatest of people. He basically didn't have a choice. He had to succumb. They met in the hotel. Datuk Nazim arranged for the lawyers, Cecil Ibrahim, Sunil Ibrahim, and the Commissioner of Oaths. They met P.I. Bala in the hotel. They booked a room. They constructed a new SD. And I didn't see the SD till the next day, but I know that it was done as per the instruction of Datuk Nazim. And this SD was then presented to the press the next morning.
When you met with Najib and Rosmar that night, what was their state of mind then?
Oh,
I
no,
mean,
Najib
what was she like?
Najib was in a very panicky mood. Rosmar actually just sat at the corner and she said, you talk to my husband, let him make the calls. Because she knows there are certain things that really would make Najib angry. And this situation was one of them. You must remember that this whole Altantuya fiasco was caused by Rosmar. Rosmar went on a rampage that night. She wanted to kill Altantuya. She wanted to get rid of the child that was in Altantuya's stomach.
How do you know that?
Well, I've been told this by P.I. Bala. P.I. Bala was watching, he was watching over Altantuya for close to 2 weeks before she was murdered. He was hired by Raza Paginda to watch over her.
But did you ever know any of that from Rosmar herself? Did she speak to you, or did you witness anything at the house?
We never discussed this. This was never discussed in the house. Everyone, you must remember, it's the house of the Deputy Prime Minister. You've got the ADCs, both her ADC, his ADC. You've got bodyguards. You've got their maids. You have got their house people, their house workers. There are more than 25 people stationed in the house full time. Everyone know what happened that night, but no one would speak about it.
So, how did you? Because after that the second statutory declaration, the press conference for that the next day, then Bala was sent overseas with his wife.
Yes.
And then you acted, I understand, as a bit of a go-between between for Najib and Rosmar to Bala. Tell me about that.
Datuk Nazim had given him money when he left. It was part of the arrangement to facilitate him leaving Malaysia, enough money for him to leave. And after that, every month there was a certain amount of money that was to be paid, and they organized the money to be delivered to him, sometimes through me, sometimes through people who also knew Bala. There was even a deputy minister involved in coordinating payments to Bala whenever he would want something.
A deputy minister?
Yes, who met Bala in Singapore.
They were facilitating money?
Yes.
And who was that deputy minister?
Let me try to remember his name. He was a deputy minister at the time. He became a full minister after that.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken, I'll need to check. I
Yeah.
think it's Hamza Zainuddin, who became the minister in charge of domestic trade
Right.
as a reward for helping Najib try to control Bala.
So, how did you feel about doing all of that? I mean, were you doing it willingly, or were you doing it at that stage? What was your relationship like with them, or were you actually?
Honestly,
Yeah.
if there's one thing that I regret in my life, and I've said this in public before, is getting myself involved in this murky murder. You know, if there's one thing I regret, it would be this. And I vowed to give Altantuya her justice. I will do whatever it takes so that she gets her justice. That the people who ordered her killing must face justice. All this while, the last 10 years, Najib has been avoiding to go for trial. Rosmah has been avoiding to go for trial, using their sheer dominance as the Prime Minister, always managing to strike out the case against them with regards to Altantuya, with regards to P.I. Bala. And I believe that there is a slim chance that this matter will go to trial now. Next Monday, the case management for this case will begin.
So this is Bala's wife's case
Yes.
against you and Najib and Rosmah.
Yes, 8 defendants. Well, they've managed to get themselves struck off from the case at the High Court. But the case is now pending in the Federal Court. There's also another case where Altantuya's father has filed against Najib, and that case will go for trial in January. I have this to say to Najib and Rosmah: if truly you're not involved, you did not order the killing of Altantuya, let this case see the light of day. Let there be a trial. If you want justice, that's the only way. Don't run away from a trial.
Did you ever ask them yourself? Did you ever say, you know, were you involved in this case?
Well, I've discussed this with the people around them, and I've discussed this with her brother, Najib's brother, and even they are perplexed that why did Altantuya have to be murdered? It didn't make sense. If she wanted money, there was abundant money, billions. She only wanted 500,000 ringgit, not even dollars. The issue at hand was not about money. The issue at hand was that Altantuya was pregnant. Was she actually pregnant with Najib's child? Rosmah could never accept this. That's why she was bombed. She was C4'd.
So you were around their house though at that time?
Not on that night.
Right.
Not on that night, but I was there the next day.
And what was it like the next day? Did you wouldn't have known that Altantuya had died?
We all knew. We all knew. I mean, everyone was just subtle. The whole scene was very subtle, but there's nothing you can say. You're talking about the Deputy Prime Minister's family. There's nothing you can say. In that sense, I must say this, I'm really happy that finally Malaysia is putting to trial a senior politician, a Prime Minister, because future generations of Malaysians will not look up to senior politicians as though they are demigods.
But accusations of corruption are one thing, accusations of murder are another.
Exactly.
And if they are involved in murder, then that needs to be thoroughly investigated.
You have
But
to go for trial.
What, I mean, you know, you say that you know that Altantuya was pregnant. You know that through Bella.
Yes.
But you don't know that through Rosmar or...
Rosmar would never discuss Altantuya.
Did you ever try to discuss it with her?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. I wouldn't dare.
So you just knew that...
We all knew. Her children knew. Her daughter knew. Her sons knew. Everyone knows. It was an open secret. Everyone knew that Altantuya was murdered on instructions.
But how did you feel then about continuing your relationship with
That's
a woman who ordered
yeah.
a murder?
But at that stage, you know, we were already encumbered in various dealings. We were already involved in business. We had already given her a lot of gratification. We were encumbered in this whole thing. Dare we go out? Dare we just walk out from this whole arrangement? What would happen to the business? It's the same thing with a senior government officer, an enforcement officer. He knows what happened. The courts know what happened. Nobody could do nothing. Nobody could do nothing.
But do you understand why people might find it strange that, you know, you're involved in businesses with somebody who you then discover has actually ordered the murder of a young woman,
yes.
and you continue to do business or continue to engage? I know it's
For
your livelihood.
For the record,
yeah.
I had started reducing my business with them at a certain point from 2010. The records will show, and I wanted out. I wanted out. I got my out. I got my out, but it came in a very bad way. I lost my contracts. I lost my concessions. The main reason was because I didn't want to continue managing this PI Bala matter. I was being pushed by Bala on one side to coming together with him to give testimony. I was being pushed by my friends who didn't want me involved in things like this. It was a situation where at a certain point in 2011, 2012, I just practically stopped all activities. Anyway, my contracts were being challenged and I could not pull them through, and I saw it. I felt at that point of time that this curse of Altantuya's murder was coming on me too. Not just on Najib. Remember, Najib has gone through a lot because of Altantuya. A lot. She's not leaving him alone. She will come back and she will come back and she'll get a pound of flesh. He didn't just kill her, you know, he killed an innocent child.
Did the murder too at all make you fearful of your relationship with Rosmar? I mean, did you think that if she could do that, allegedly do that to somebody else, that she could
if
do
I
it?
was carrying Najib's child, I think she would do it to me too.
So that was a motivation.